One thing that we saw consistent at Talladega, Chase Elliott and a bunch of other drivers that had a good run had those bow ties on their fire suit. So let's take a listen to what the Chevy drivers had in plan when it came for Talladega.
Really proud of Chevrolet and everybody sticking together, executing like we talked about doing, and actually sticking to it. You know, we've talked about it before and just not been able to stick to it.
There's definitely strength in numbers, and you've seen it today when guys start working together and start pulling the train on the bottom. It's just so much faster, and the guys in the second lane just can't muster up the runs that they need to get up there and challenge for the lead.
It's just nice to have a plan at a super speedway that can be so chaotic, and we all stuck together, and to have that security of having a teammate behind you to keep you in line and doing okay.
Some of the other manufacturers have done an extremely good job over the past however many races of staying committed to each other, and Chevrolet, we've talked about it, but it's hard with the amount of cars we've had to stay dedicated, and we put a huge emphasis on that. Everyone at Chevrolet did, all of our race teams did, and I feel like us doing it for the first time, as committed as we were, it looked like we had done it many times before. So proud of the effort that went into getting us here and the effort that went into staying committed and putting our egos aside. It's tough to get a bunch of drivers to do that, but I feel like we did a great job of that today.
Well, guys, it was a 13-race winless streak for the bow tie. But more than that, I don't know if it was Toyota at the Daytona 500 back a few years ago where they were so organized running up front, or the Fords at Talladega last year, namely the Stewart-Haas Fords, or perhaps it was the Hendrick Chevys working with the Toyotas at Daytona this year that caused this conversation. But as you heard all those drivers say, it was a conversation for years. This doesn't sound like a conversation. This sounds like an orchestrated plan and perhaps pretty pointed direction from a manufacturer.
Yeah, I think we've all probably been part of discussions and talks, and everybody gets in and everybody kind of says, okay, we'll buy into that. But then once you get out there, and then especially once as a driver, you suit up and you get behind the wheel, it's like, okay, this is good. We'll work for a long time in this race. This is 500 miles. But doing it at the end of the race, that's a different story. And those drivers stuck to that plan. I applaud them for doing that. And, you know, some of them stuck to it to a point that maybe it cost them a position or two, but as a group, they were successful and they made it work, and they went to victory lane for the first time in a while.
I mean, Jeff, you mentioned on that restart, they let Let's Kurt Busch in, and then the Chevys were lined up.
Yeah, I thought that was huge. I mean, that right there showed me that they were indeed committed to doing it. There were times in the race that I felt like, you know, you just got where you were. You know what I mean? It's really hard to say, okay, there's a Chevy, that's where I'm going. It's really hard to do that. I think some of it was orchestrated in the fact that there was definite effort to do it, and other times it was just circumstances that got them there. But that effort with Chase Elliott saying, okay, I'm actually gonna take myself and move myself back a spot at a plate race. Yeah. You know, to do that, I thought that showed real commitment, and it got him the win. That move, that willingness to let Kurt in front of him actually contributed to him in a huge way of winning that race.
So I'll be the first to say it. I'm not sure I like it. I don't know that I like these Toyota versus Ford versus Chevrolet. I did when it was kind of a storyline and you didn't see it happen on the racetrack. I think it's necessary. I think the manufacturers are now as organized as they've ever been, and that's what you have to do. So if I was on top of a pit box, I would absolutely be preaching it. As a fan, I don't know. I guess selfishly, I want to see everybody against everybody, but that's just not how it works in 2019.
Well, I got a question. If all the Toyotas are going to work with all the Toyotas, and all the Chevys are going to work with all the Chevys, and all the Fords are going to work with all the Fords, why does it matter?
Yeah, good point.
Right? Like, I mean, it's just going to be circumstantial of what group is leading, right? I mean, it's not like the Chevrolets just all of a sudden can say, we're going to beat the Toyotas or we're going to beat the Fords, because the Fords are there to race too. And so if this is the future of plate racing, I don't know long-term how it's an advantage to one versus the other than Chevrolet has more cars. That, to me, is the only advantage. Now, in this weekend, I thought that Ford got hurt because two of the really good Fords got taken out early. You took two Stewart-Haas cars out really early in that wreck, right? Yeah. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see where this goes and how the future of this goes. If everybody's going to work with their own manufacturer, at the end of the day, you know, how does that really impact? Because I just don't know how you, as Chevrolet or Ford, can just automatically just do it better than the other two manufacturers. They're there to compete too. Be interesting to see how it progresses.
Maybe this will help the sport some. You know, back in the day when everybody said everything was great, I mean, you were either a Ford, a Chevrolet, or a Dodge fan, you know, and you didn't cross over any. So
you could separate the stands.
Maybe this can, you know, help the sport and get a little bit of something going that makes things a little more interesting for us.
Hey, Motorsports fans, thanks for watching. Make sure you hit subscribe before you go for all the latest news and highlights across motorsports.